Hello everybody, this is Isaac here and welcome to a new series of Isaac Reviews. It looks like we're in a brand new location and a new suit. So a lot has been happening and I've been gone for a while, but due to personal reasons. But anyways, I'm back and better than ever. So, Sean Connery, the best James Bond.
Whenever we think of Bond, we think of Connery, with his awesome cool looks, his cars, the gadgets, and everything. Pretty much, all of his films have been really solid gold, and he pretty much had enjoyed the role ever since. But when You Only Live Twice was released, he was sort of getting tired and thought he was going to be typecast, and so George Lazenby got to step into the role. Well, he didn't last very long.
Well, turns out Sean Connery did return to the role as Bond, but for one last time.
And that was in Diamonds Are Forever from 1971.
What do I think of Diamonds Are Forever? It's good, but that isn't the film we're talking about today. We're talking about the unofficial James Bond film, Never Say Never Again.
Never say never again. Never say never again.
Never Say Never Again was pretty much a cash-in James Bond film which was ready to capitalize on Octopussy, which was released the same year. Turns out, with this film and Octopussy, it began a thing that would be known as Battle of the Bonds.
Now we got all that cleared up, what's the story?
Instead of having an awesome gun barrel, which we already recognize at this point, or even playing the James Bond theme, we're pretty much into the film with a lot of disappointment. And the film is directed by Ivan Kershner, who did Empire Strikes Back, and it should have been awesome, but unfortunately isn't. The plot centers around Bond, played by the amazing Sean Connery, as he's a senior agent now. However, Spectre, being as evil as they are, want to start another war. So what do? They steal some nukes and fire them off into the ocean. So it's up to Bond to stop the villains and save the day.
The plot is very familiar. Oh, don't worry, we'll get to you later.
So the film's main story is mainly a remake of Thunderball, which was released in 1965. So what's with this whole story and why is this a remake? Well, let me explain. It all begins with Ian Fleming, as he wanted to do a James Bond film after the release of several of his novels. So he teamed up with a film producer from Ireland named Kevin McClory, and they got to work on a script called Warhead. Unfortunately, the film was scrapped and was never made. However, many of the elements were used in Ian Fleming's next novel, Thunderball. However, Kevin McClory saw this and he was furious that Ian Fleming stole his ideas. So a court case happened and turns out McClory won the court case. And turns out Spectre, as well as Blofeld, will all belong to him, as well as the story of Thunderball. He owned them until his death in 2006, and so now Thunderball and Spectre are now owned by Eon Productions. Although it's a remake, I don't really mind this version. It's a lot more easier to tell, and I actually enjoy a few elements in the story. Sean Connery reprising his role as Bond is actually very good. Although now in his 50s, he certainly got the hang of it, and I feel like he was having so much fun working with a few members of the cast. Heck, even him working with none other than Rowan Atkinson himself is awesome. The main Bond girl, Domino, this time played by Kim Basinger, is okay at best. But what do you expect from the actress who actually played Vicky Vale in the Tim Burton Batman movie? Still, I like that film, but we'll talk about that one later. The villains are alright at best. Some of them are good and some of them are okay. For starters, let's talk about our main villain, Maximilian Largo. He's okay, I don't really mind him that much, and I don't mind the name change, though I preferred Emu Largo way better than this version. Blofeld, being played by Max von Sydow, is a really good choice, but unfortunately he's completely wasted in this movie, only showing up a few times. I really wanted him to show up more in the film. However, Fatina Blush is the saving grace to the film. She's actually not that bad, and she's actually pretty good at replacing Fiona Volpe anytime. However, an awesome part of the film is Alec McCrone's version of Q. I just personally love him, and he's certainly an amazing highlight to the movie. Another character that actually is very funny, in fact, is Nigel, played by none other than Mr. Bean, Rowan Atkinson. And he's actually pretty fun in this film. In fact, could this be a prequel to the Johnny English series? Well, that's just my opinion.
So far the film is actually looking good, but are there any flaws to it?
First one would have to go to this film's version of M. Now don't get me wrong, Edward Fox is a really good actor, but this version of M is just plain terrible. He just moans that Bond is terrible at his job. In fact, he isn't. Another minor problem has to be the biggest and the worst of them all. And that has to be the music.
Never say never again. Never say never.
The score was done by Michael Legrand, who did the worst job at doing a soundtrack, and I can agree on many people because it's just too jazzy. Originally, they wanted none other than James Warner to do the soundtrack, but it actually would have been a very awesome thing, but unfortunately he was rejected. The worst bit of it all has to be the song by Lana Hall, which is just plain awful. Another rejection is surprisingly Phyllis Hyman, who her song is actually vastly better than the one we had to listen to. In fact, I wonder what it actually would sound like if it was in the film.
Never say never again. There's no way to know the ways of love.
This could have been easily better, but unfortunately the music isn't gonna save the film for now.
There is this one scene where Bond plays an arcade game with Largo. It is pointless, but you could easily get past it. Overall, Never Say Never Again is a guilty pleasure. The story is okay at best, being a remake to Thunderball, but I'm used to it. The characters are mostly fine, well except for a few. Connery is awesome in this film, as he always is with every James Bond film he's in. Of course, if you are a huge James Bond fan or a Sean Connery fan, I would recommend it. As for me, I'm a little mixed on it, but it is certainly good.
I hope somewhere in the future that MGN and Orion Pictures can get along and actually do a remaster as well as a special edition to the film, with a gun barrel, Phyllis Hyman's song being in the film, and a better soundtrack. But for now, we'll just have to wait a while and stick with this version.
Although this is Connery's last film playing James Bond, but I want it to be done a little better. I may talk about that in a future video. For now, Never Say Never Again deserves a 7 out of 10.
And so that's my review of Never Say Never Again. It's okay at best, but it is a fun-packed film for any James Bond fan. So, what's next to review? Well, I think it's finally time. So until then, this is Isaac Films, signing off.